Figures with no arms and hollow eyes carved into Utah's red rock might be gods or something else that came down from the sky. Deep in a Mexican cave, explorers claim they've found ancient stones that show aliens trading corn with humans. And in the dark tunnels of a South African cave, a species with chimp-sized brains somehow left behind the world's oldest known symbolic art. These are more ancient cave markings that show advanced technology. In Utah's Sego Canyon, there's a mysterious stretch of ancient rock art. Some of these carvings are over 8,000 years old. They don't look like your typical cave drawings of hunters or animals. Instead, they're these tall, kinda eerie figures with huge hollow eyes, no arms or legs, and in some cases, what look like antennae sticking out of their heads. They look kinda like robots from 1950s B-movies. Naturally, this has caught the attention of people who believe in the ancient astronaut theory. Basically, that maybe these ancient people had actual encounters with visitors from space. One of the standout images is called the Barrier Canyon Holy Man. And here, this towering figure is surrounded by smaller, shadowy people. Clearly, the tall figure is the important one. But were they drawing something they just imagined, or was this something they actually saw and decided to document? So here's a wild one. A group of explorers in Mexico claim that they've found actual proof of ancient contact with aliens. They were digging around in a set of caves between Veracruz and Puebla, and they pulled up what they're calling the stones of the first encounter. Basically, carved artifacts showing beings with long heads, big oval eyes, and even what look like spaceships. One of the stones apparently shows an alien handing over what looks like a corn cob to a ruler. The group said their search has, quote, yielded totally unexpected results, and they genuinely believe they found the ultimate evidence that alien beings visited Earth thousands of years ago. Local legends talk about a mysterious ship that's been hidden in the area since ancient times, and that's what drew the explorers there in the first place. According to Jose Aguayo, the National Institute of Anthropology and History won't touch this discovery. It's not typical archaeology, he said. And if INAH ever did recognize the artifacts, it would, quote, basically accept one of the most denied facts, the existence of beings not from Earth. Deep inside South Africa's Rising Star cave system, so deep you've got to crawl through tight, pitch-black tunnels to even reach it, archaeologists found engravings that might be the earliest symbolic art ever made. And no, they weren't made by Homo sapiens. The markings, which are made up of lines and crosshatches, some seeming to be crude depictions of animals even, were carved into the rock walls near what appears to be a burial site. But if it wasn't Homo sapiens who etched them though, who was it? A distant human cousin called Homo naledi. They had smaller brains, only about a third the size of ours, but somehow they were making art. This turns out to be legit symbolic art. We're talking about a species that supposedly wasn't smart enough to do this kind of thing, actually doing it. And that messes with the whole bigger brain equals more advanced culture idea. As archaeologist Lee Berger put it, this could rewrite the story of human evolution. In 2022, researchers using 3D scanning technology discovered massive ancient glyphs carved into the walls and ceiling of a cave in northern Alabama. No one had noticed them before because you literally couldn't see them without 3D scans. Some of these figures stretch over 7 feet long and were carved into the low ceiling, meaning the people who made them had to lie on their backs in the dark to do it. The designs include snakes, human-like figures, and shapes, and they're estimated to be over 1,000 years old. It's believed they were made by the Mississippian culture, but nothing else like this has been found in their art, and whoever etched these would have had to have been pretty serious about it. I mean, these figures were carefully carved into the rock. It's hard to reach, and even harder to see. That alone makes it feel like they were hiding something possibly important. Maybe it was part of some ceremony, or maybe it was a message meant for someone in the future. Some researchers think this could have been a symbolic system, a way to pass on ideas or maybe even warnings that we still don't understand. Either way, the size, the location, the weirdness of it all, it makes it hard to believe it was just a random decoration. I mean, after all, it wasn't out in the open. Who'd get to appreciate it? Yeah, these carvings are weird. The Valcamonica Petroglyphs, found in northern Italy, are one of the biggest collections of prehistoric rock art in Europe. Over 140,000 carvings spread across the valley, most of them are pretty typical for ancient times. You have animals, tools, hunters, ritual scenes, but then you've got these two figures. They've got bulky bodies, what look like tight-fitting suits, and big round heads with what appear to be antennae or helmets. Some people say they look exactly like astronauts. So people who are really into ancient alien type stuff love to point to these two figures as possible proof that early humans might have encountered visitors from another planet, beings wearing spacesuits. Another popular theory is that they might be visitors from the future, which is definitely a fun idea too. Now, obviously these could also be stylized depictions of gods or warriors. Definitely could be the case, but the truth is, nobody really knows for sure, because there's no writing to explain what the artists were trying to get across. In Talampaya National Park in Argentina, you'll find these strange carvings etched into the walls, some of them dating back around 2,000 to 3,000 years. They're known as the petroglyphs of the Ciénaga culture, and while some of them show normal stuff like animals, others are a bit harder to explain. One figure in particular that gets brought up a lot is this one here. Look at the big round heads, the lack of a face. They almost look like they're wearing helmets, like spacesuits. The proportions are way off from typical human figures, and there are no clear weapons or tools or clothing to suggest it's a hunter or a warrior. Of course, this is where, again, the ancient alien theories come in. People think these carvings might show beings that early humans saw but didn't fully understand. In 2023, archaeologists digging around the Karga Oasis in Egypt, about 100 miles west of Luxor, came across a weird rock panel. It's now got people debating what the hell it actually shows. At first glance, the carvings look like spiders, webs, maybe bugs caught in the web, and that's exactly what Egyptologist Salim Ikram said it was. Most of the headlines ran with that version of the story. Creepy prehistoric spiders etched into stone, cool enough, but some researchers think there might be more to this. Dr. Derek Cunningham came out with a totally different angle. He believes the patterns are actually ancient astronomy. They line up with important numbers used to predict solar and lunar eclipses. For example, he says the spider-looking shapes are tilted at exactly 13.66 degrees, which matches half of a sidereal month. That's basically how long it takes the moon to line up with the same distant stars again. Then there's Michael Leto, who thinks the symbols represent constellations and zodiac signs, possibly used for some kind of star map. So in a bunch of European caves, researchers started noticing weird marks next to the animal paintings. Not the animals themselves, but symbols, repeating shapes like dots, slashes, crosses, and these odd Y figures. First, everyone figured it was just a really early form of board doodling, but a study in 2023 argued something much bigger, that this might be the world's oldest form of writing. They don't always seem to be random marks, they follow patterns. Researchers think these early humans, some 20,000 years ago, were actually keeping track of time. Specifically, they were recording when certain animals mated or migrated by marking lunar months. One of the lead researchers said it's a, quote, really big deal cognitively, going on to explain it shows they were organizing information outside of their brains, on surfaces, which is basically the first step toward writing and recording data. They were tracking breeding cycles, trying to predict animal behavior, and to think this kind of thing could have been going on during the Ice Age inside pitch black caves, well, that's pretty wild. Deep in southern Russia, in a spot called the Skelnovsky Grotto, now it's kind of hard to tell based on these images, but archaeologists studied some rock carvings here and found that they look a lot like someone's first-hand account of a meteor crashing to Earth. The petroglyph dates back to the Bronze Age. It shows what seems to be a giant object falling from the sky, breaking into pieces, and scattering debris. Researchers think this might be the earliest known eyewitness record of something like this. An ancient person trying to document a meteor explosion the only way they could, by carving it into rock. One team even matched the direction the object was moving in the carving to real landmarks on the ground, like blast zones and impact craters nearby, and it lines up. So whoever made this wasn't just telling a story, they were recording something they saw, something that would have been utterly terrifying, by the way. They probably thought the world was ending. In the remote Kimberley region of northwestern Australia, you'll find the Wandjina cave paintings, ancient Aboriginal artwork that shows figures that are nothing like the usual stick figure hunting scenes or animal drawings you see in other parts of the world. Instead, the Wandjina are drawn with big round heads, little mouths or no mouths at all, massive black eyes, and white faces that almost look like they're glowing. Some are surrounded by halos or lines that shoot out from their heads. And if you're thinking, well, that kind of sounds like your classic alien in modern day, well, you're not alone. The local Aboriginal people say the Wandjina are powerful ancestral spirits, sky beings that brought law, culture, and even rain. Some believe these aren't just mythological spirits, but actual beings that ancient people saw with their own eyes. The mouthless faces, the oversized eyes, the auras, they all feel oddly familiar in today's world of UFO sightings and alien reports. Were the Wandjina just ancient gods, or something they imagined, or could they have been an entity that showed up in the sky thousands of years ago? With all that said, I've been your host, James. I'll catch you, yes you specifically, in the next video.